the one that actually worked wasn't the one that I expected. Most people think that the slowest, most meditative practice is the best at stopping overthinking. I thought that too, but after studying all 5 as a black belt, the winner gets you mentally quiet in under 5 minutes. There have been moments in my work as a lawyer where I would overthink emails to clients. Even going back to my career as an actor in Sydney, I would overthink scene dynamics. And this would often result in me losing my time. So I'd be ruminating on what my best reply would be. And this overthinking would be pulling me out of the present moment and the spontaneity of being in that scene with my scene partner. My karate has always given me a way to focus my energy. But when I started karate, I wasn't aware of the internal martial arts. There's no exact, universally agreed upon number of internal martial arts. However, the most classic, traditional internal arts named by Sun Lutang include Tàijí, Xíngyìquán, and Bāguà. Sometimes this is extended out to include Liùhé Bāfǎ as the 4th, which is sometimes called the 4th internal martial art. And some accounts it can even include the 5th, which is Yìquán. And I'm going to do something sneaky here. I'm going to include a number 6 on this list. And many people will disagree with me here, but I will include, for the sake of this video, Qìgōng. Qigong is more of an energy method, but I include it for purposes that I'll get to later in this video. So I'm going to show you what I learned from each, what worked for my overthinking brain, the practice that beat Tàijí for stopping overthinking for me, and fourthly, which one I'm still practicing today. So let's start with the most yang, explosive, and aggressive of all the internal arts. First, Xíngyìquán. This comes from a military background, and this is a very direct art. It's all about moving in a straight line, one linear line and never retreating. The ideology of Xíngyìquán is it's about direct, decisive unity of mind and action. And at its highest level, Xingyi is said to cultivate a state of no hesitation. Now, Xíngyìquán's primary technique for stopping overthinking is holding the triangular Santi Shi stance for long durations. Essentially, it's a standing meditation that requires you to align your body and your intent forward. It's about emptying the mind of everything except that stance that you're in. The second technique that is used is what's called the 5-element fists. And this is about stepping forward and punching in the same manner over and over until it's almost like a trance-like movement. And this can induce a flow state where your analysis just falls away and only the intent to strike remains. So Xingyi quiets the mind by concentrating it. Just like a spear point, if you can imagine a spear point, the mind is directed only towards the immediate intention, leaving no other space for your internal chatter. Now, with that said, there are some drawbacks to Xíngyìquán. Firstly is that it can amp up your adrenaline. It can amp up your muscular tension if it's taught or practiced too hard. Secondly, Xíngyìquán also provides less overt instruction on breathing and conscious relaxation. Its focus is really on attacking, right? So it means you're imagining conflict, which is often exciting rather than calming. And some people may find the movements to be relatively monotonous, which could leave some people's mind to start wandering again. With that said, today, many Xingyi fighters say that the art builds a kind of steel will and simplicity of thought. So for the overthinker, developing this habit of immediate, decisive intent can help break the habit of overthinking. However, with that said, what I've found is you really need to practice with the correct mindset, which is one of relaxation to get those calming benefits. Whereas if it's done tensely, well, then it can just feel like aggression training, really. So reflecting on my experience with Xíngyìquán, the explosive movements, they gave me some sort of temporary relief, maybe 30 minutes of mental quiet, but I really needed something more sustained. The next art, Liùhé Bāfǎ, is often called 6 harmonies, 8 methods, or very simply, water boxing. Focus here is to become like water, because water is yielding and flowing, yet it can be very powerful. And it aims to coordinate these 6 harmonies. The body harmonizes with the mind with intent, the intent with qi which is energy, Qi with spirit, spirit with movement, and movement with emptiness. Emptiness being a empty, clear mind. With that said, the primary technique that Liùhé Bāfǎ offers for stopping one's overthinking is a long flowing movement of 66 postures that weave together slow, gentle motions with occasional bursts of speed. And it's like alternating from a quiet mind of floating clouds to a focused mind of sudden storms. And to transition through these postures, it requires one to keep their intent clear continuously and their mind very, very present. If it's done properly, it can develop a state of complete emptiness in movement and complete harmony, where you are performing very complex moves, but the mind remains still. Now, with that said, the drawbacks here with Liùhé Bāfǎ, it's very dense with complex concepts, and it's quite a high barrier for entry without having a skilled teacher, and it's quite difficult to find a skilled teacher these days because this art is it is relatively rare, and it can be easy for overthinkers to get stuck intellectualizing these principles because they are so complex instead of just feeling them. So with that said, Liùhé Bāfǎ gave me longer periods of calm, maybe 2 to 3 hours, but the complexity of coordinating 6 harmonies, even though I was just beginning with the art, often produced more mental loops than I wanted, to be honest. My brain started overthinking the practice itself, so I really needed something just simpler. And the next art stripped away that complexity. Bāguà. The ideology in Bāguà is based on the I Ching. It's based on the symbols of the I Ching, which is the book of changes in the Taoist cosmology. It's all about finding stillness in continual movement. And the ideology with Bāguà is by moving in circles, in continuous movement in circles, so circle walking and changing direction in the circle that you're walking in. In doing this, one learns to remain internally unmoved. And this echoes Lao Tzu's idea in that stillness is the master of movement. So this art is based on the open palm. There's no fists to strike, it's all palm work. And the primary technique that Bāguà uses for stopping overthinking is walking in circles continuously while holding various postures, which are called the 8 mother palms. And while you're doing so, performing smooth changes, which what the art refers to as 64 palm changes. And all of that really adds up to meditation in motion, really. So as you're walking the perimeter of the circle, you're coordinating your gaze and your steps with your breathing internally from your diaphragm, and you're keeping your gaze and attention steady. Then on top of that, the constant turning adds a sort of kinetic trance that serves to sharpen your focus under changing conditions. And all of this can induce quite a calm, centered state. So your body is constantly changing direction and orientation, but your mind stays undistracted by that change. The drawbacks with Bāguà. Well, the footwork and the coiling mechanics of the palm work are quite complex. And because of that, beginners can get dizzy or just flat out overwhelmed. And it's quite rare. It's niche, and because of that rareness, some schools lean more on the combative layer rather than the meditative layer. And because of that, the meditative layer can get lost. So with Bāguà, the constant circular movement and direction of movement did quiet my mind during practice. But I mean, I can't do this when I'm overthinking at my desk at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I really need something more accessible and something I could really practice anywhere. So the next art, Yìquán. Yìquán was created in the 20th century, so relatively recently, by a Xíngyìquán master, and he took out all the fixed routines and just emphasized standing practice and intent. So instead of techniques, there's just one fundamental: training the mind to be in the here and now. The art's core is that intention leads qi, and qi leads the body, implying that a deeply calm, focused mind is the source of all power and health. And Yìquán's primary technique for stopping overthinking is standing meditation, standing in a posture, a specific posture that resembles an embrace for extended periods of time. And this is done while maintaining deep relaxation and awareness of the body. it forces a single pointed awareness. There's really no room for overthinking when you're focused on aligning your spine, relaxing your muscles, and imagining hugging a tree at the same time. Now, with that said, the drawbacks of Yìquán are its intensity, first of all. You're standing still for 20 minutes, and this can be quite tiring. It is less common, there's fewer qualified teachers around, and because of that, there's danger in poor form and poor alignment, particularly with your spine. Well, that can cause tension instead of calmness. Now, with that said, I don't want to dampen Yìquán. It is widely respected today for developing, very quickly developing mental concentration and calm. And even fighters and monks have used standing practice to steady the mind. Yìquán was a lot more accessible for me. I could practice it anywhere, really. I could practice it standing in the line at the grocery store. But the long standing times, 20 to 30 minutes usually, minimum, that was difficult to maintain daily practice for me. And when I was just exhausted, I just needed something that I could practice in shorter bursts. And that is when I stumbled upon probably one of the most famous internal arts, Tàijí. Now, this really depends on what style of Tàijí. There are 5. For example, Chen style is more martial and Yang is more flowing for relaxation. I went with a few classes in Yang, and Tàijí is really rooted in Taoist philosophy and the concept of balancing yin and yang, so balancing softness with strength. And it emphasizes the principle of wu wei, which is effortless action, and also the principle of sung, which is structural relaxation. So Tàijí's primary technique for stopping overthinking is slow, continuous forms that coordinate your shifting weight to anchor the mind in the present moment. You're doing graceful, rounded movements while breathing deeply and evenly. In doing so, it encourages the release of tension with each and every move, because that focused choreography and the deep breathing at the same time, it relaxes the nervous system. Tàijí does have some drawbacks, one of them being that it does have a bit of a steep learning curve, because it can trigger perfectionism in some people, because learning that choreography and learning at the same time to align the body correctly, that just takes time before it becomes second nature and meditative. And it will test anyone impatient because it is so gentle. But once they're past that initial learning phase, it can become very relaxing. And there's a whole body of research today that consistently shows Tàijí provides improved mood and lower anxiety and depression. And it rewires the brain to redirect negative thoughts into calmer patterns. My initial practice of Tàijí, it did create actual mental space, but it required around 20 to 30 minutes. And this may be because I was just starting out with Yang. It required 20 to 30 minutes of practice for those overthinking loops to dissolve completely. So then I wondered if there was even faster relief. And that's when I discovered why Qìgōng is considered the foundation of all internal martial arts. Now, as I said at the start, I'm not supposed to be including Qìgōng in this list because technically it is not an internal martial art, but I couldn't leave this out because of the topic of this video, right, which is stopping overthinking. Qìgōng is not a standalone martial art. It's a system of breath, posture, and focused attention used for health and for the foundation of all internal martial arts. So all internal martial arts contain Qìgōng, but not all Qìgōng is martial art. It's more like the root system than an additional branch. And Qìgōng predates Tàijí by well over 1,000 years. It's considered the engine, the older engine of breath, posture, and intent. And Tàijí is a martial art that uses that engine. So Qìgōng is a Taoist practice centered on Qi, which is life energy, and the balance of mind, body, and spirit. And the core idea with Qìgōng is that a relaxed, focused mind allows one's life energy to flow freely, restoring natural balance. So Qìgōng's primary technique for stopping overthinking is slow, repetitive motions synced with diaphragmatic breathing, and thirdly, visualization of your energy circulating through your body. And this shifts our attention into our body and our breath. And this activates the parasympathetic nervous system and naturally reduces that mind chatter. The only drawbacks that I could think of for Qìgōng were that its effects are very subtle And some people in practice with them, they often doubt that these are beginner starters. They sometimes doubt that it's doing enough. And it may bore those seeking a more vigorous outlet. However, most people report feeling grounded and mentally clear after just a short session. And that was certainly my experience. I mean, Qigong wins for me because of its, I think solely because of its focus on inner cultivation, really. There are no complex forms. There are no combat drills. Personally, I can balance that out perfectly well with my karate, so I don't need any more combat drills. So with all that said, that was just my experience. That was what I found. It may be different for you. And really the best art for quieting the mind is the one that you enjoy, the one that you will practice continuously. And if you're currently practicing any of these arts that I've mentioned, I would genuinely love to know your experience, how you found it so far, and just drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. You know, what are you noticing? Is it improving your mental well-being, your physical health? I'd love to hear. And now that you have a practice for mental quiet, what about when mental chatter hits during conversations with other people? When you're replaying what you said or you're analyzing their tone in conversation when they're speaking with you? Well, I made a video on exactly that, and you can check that out right here, and I'll see you there.